My name is Inderjit Bhogal. I'm a Methodist minister. I live in Sheffield. I've lived there since 1987. Actually for 3 years I lived in Belfast also when I was leader of the Corrymeela community. And I've been associated with Ireland since I was a student at university, undergraduate in Manchester. I was invited by the Reverend Harold Good to come and support his work at Corrymeela community. He was based there at the time. So since then, I've been coming. I love coming here. I love Belfast, love Ireland, the people of Ireland. And, I learned from Ireland, from people like Harold Good, the importance of bringing people together. Not least in situations of conflict. I mean, we live in a world of war, conflict, daily news, and I think the lesson I've learned here is that the only way to resolve conflict is to bring people to sit together at the table and to talk. So I came to Britain in 1964, 60 years ago, technically as a refugee because Kenya became independent from Britain in 1963-64, so we had to get out, and for 9 months we were in Tanganyika as it was, every 2 weeks going to a different house. Eventually we came to live in the UK and in the Midlands, in a small town called Dudley. And from, I was 11, from that age, because I could speak English, lots of people of Asian backgrounds who were in trouble with immigration asked me to fill forms for them and to do some interpretation, translation. So from the age of 11, I've been familiar with issues around migration, refugees, people falling foul of immigration rules and procedures, and that's been part of my life all the way through. I went on to become a Methodist minister. I actually became president of the Methodist Conference, the only person up to this date born outside the UK to hold that role. And so in my capacity as a church leader, I've been doing all I can to critique, to challenge and to explore issues around migration. A rule for me, which I pick up in the teachings of Christ, is to make all your decisions by considering what will benefit those who are hurting the most. For me, that's refugees. If you look at the world where we are now, there's 120 million people who are displaced by war and conflict. It's an unprecedented number. Nothing we can take any pride in. It's a shameful, scandalous fact. According to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, 90% of the world's displaced people are displaced because their houses have been destroyed by war and violence. You just look at what's going on in Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, Yemen, Myanmar, many places where Sudan, if you look at conflict, 10 million people in Sudan alone displaced through violence. So what's the way to resolve that? I think the nations, leaders of nations are finding that's one of the biggest challenges. You look at any political comment, any item on the news, one of the top news items will be refugees, people coming over to Britain and Ireland, other parts of the world, and so the kind of political challenge is, how do you stop that? One way to do that, a stated British government policy, the previous government, was to create an environment of hostility here, to say you're not welcome here. The Rwanda policy, so-called, all that's meant to create a deterrent, to say to people, don't come here, you're not wanted here, and stop the small boats, the kind of mantra. Well, for me, the best way to respond to that situation is not by doing all you can to stop people or to create deterrence and to say, don't do this, you're not welcome here. Instead of creating an environment of hostility, I say challenge hostility with hospitality. Those are my 4 words. Challenge hostility with hospitality. If 90% of the world's refugees are in that situation because of war, well, the number one thing that should be done is to stop the wars. All right? Nobody wants to leave their home. Nobody wants to be a refugee. So stop the wars. That's what needs to happen. And then in the interim, as a kind of more immediate task, if that's a long-term project, more immediately, we have to build cultures of welcome and hospitality. And that's something we can all do. We don't have to just rely on politicians to do that. Me and you, anybody, everywhere, we can do that. Build cultures of welcome and hospitality as opposed to hatred and hostility. So I've lived in Sheffield now since 1987. Methodist minister, and I've always thought, what's the right thing to be doing here? And one of the things that became a priority for me is to work with refugees. Okay, who's hurting the most? Start there. And Sheffield has a history of people coming because of industry to work there from all around the world. So by the mid-80s, late 80s, there were a number of organizations working with refugees, and I began to engage with them. And then there came a point, actually 20 years ago almost exactly, I convened a meeting with a colleague of mine. The two of us convened a meeting in Sheffield of all the organizations working with refugees. About 50 people turned up, and we asked them to share what they were doing. They were all doing really good work. Everybody, all the organizations, doing what they can to create welcome and hospitality. And I, at the end of the meeting, said, that's good. What you're doing is to be applauded. But you're all working separately. If we all work together, we could really make a huge impact in our city to build here a culture of welcome and hospitality. And in that moment, I suggested that we could look at Sheffield being a city of sanctuary. A city of sanctuary would be a place where those who are already in this country, living amongst us from other places as asylum seekers, people seeking sanctuary, refugees, that while their cases are being processed, we will do all we can to create welcome, protective hospitality for them, and a community, a sanctuary of community, to say, you're not alone, we stand with you. Okay, so if we could do that, if we work together, we could build a city like that, and everybody said we'd like to do that. So that was October 2005. Here we are in October 2024, so next 20 years next year. And we said, if we went from here and encourage others to do that as well, we could get to a point where we could say to our local government, this is the kind of city we want to live in. What will you do as our accountable representatives to help us to do this? And if they said they'll support us, then we should be declared a city of sanctuary. So that was October 2005. I thought 10 years project. By 2015, Sheffield should become a city of sanctuary. Well, in only 2 years, Sheffield was declared by the Lord Mayor of Sheffield to be a city of sanctuary. And then people in other cities started to contact me and to say, how did you do that? We'd like to do that in our city. Well, now, Maurice, there are over 100 cities, towns, villages, boroughs, places of sanctuary in Britain and Ireland. Belfast is a city of sanctuary. Belfast Trust is a trust of sanctuary. There are schools of sanctuary here. And Queen's University is a university of sanctuary. It's fantastic.
We're on the path to it, at any rate. We have set out on the path to it. So
2/3 of our universities are universities of sanctuary. What that says to me is that it's like, throwing a pebble in the water, the ripple grows. This culture of welcome and protective hospitality, challenging hostility with hospitality, it's expanding and growing. Some people say it's a very soft approach to politics. So, well, actually, it's a long-term, challenging task to bring people together, to work together, to build cultures of welcome and hospitality. Okay, I'm not in a position to change rules. That's the work of politicians. I'm not a politician, but what I can do as an ordinary citizen is to do all I can at the grassroots level. The best change comes from there, and to create a movement where people at the local level come together, work together, and effect change for transformation and community cohesion. It's working, and it's my contribution, if you like, to the debate around how do we respond to a situation in which there are 120 million refugees in the world. Government is always saying, what's the alternative to stopping the boats and sending people to Rwanda? What's the alternative? Well, here's an alternative, and it's working. And people want to live, are proud to live in cultures and environments of hospitality. My definition of sanctuary is protective hospitality, making people feel safe. Everybody wants to be safe, but no one is safe until we're all safe. So actually, it's about all of us.
Indeed, yes. It's not a question, because some people think the idea of sanctuary is about simply creating a safe space for asylum seekers and refugees, but you think of it as a much broader...
Everyone. Okay, the three most vulnerable people, actually, I've just talked about refugees. Children. Look at the dangers that face children. We are all familiar with that. Children need protection and safeguarding from harm. Older people. We're an increasingly aging population, and there are big challenges to make older people feel honoured, respected, safe, protected from harm. And then, as I said, the other group of vulnerable people, those that nobody seems to want, the displaced people, who are pushed from pillar to post. And so, you know, it's about safeguarding all vulnerable people, all those whose lives are in danger, unjustly, though, and in danger from domestic abuse, you know, from just being unsafe on the streets. And what can we do? All of us.
It's a very comprehensive vision.
Yeah.
And of course, we, as everyone knows, there are big challenges. I mean, the fact that there are 120 people, the wars and so forth, are big challenges. But do you feel a sense of hope at the moment then? Are you hopeful for the future?
I'm full of hope, yes. If I wouldn't, I wouldn't be sitting here, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I believe transformation is possible. You know, if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be doing anything about it. So for me, there are my grounds for hope are this: one, that everyone has a capacity to be human. You know, we can all be human beings. We can all behave in a humane way. So be human and call others back to their humanity, and always treat others as human beings. Never treat anybody as anything less than a human being. That's number one. Simple task. Be human and treat others as human beings. Number two, be hospitable and encourage others to be hospitable. It's something we can all do. No, it's not complicated. We can all have a warm, and embracing and friendly approach to people. And thirdly, always challenge hatred and hostility. And when you are challenging inhumanity and inhospitality, you are challenging hostility. And as I say, we've all got a capacity to do that. We can all behave in that way. And if we can do that, you're building hope. So that's my basis for hope. That's what makes me feel hopeful, that everyone, we can all be like that. Be human, be hospitable, challenge hostility and hatred, and build hope. And be humble. If I can add another word beginning with an H, be humble in everything. There is no need for arrogance in our behaviour. Just get on with what needs to be done. Do the right thing, and we can make a difference and make a better world.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me today, to us, and you'll be very welcome back at Queen's anytime. And
thank you.
I'm looking forward to reading your book and starting to put into practice here at Queen's in Belfast.
Well, you can get this copy from if you go to Churches Together in Britain and Ireland website. It's not for sale, but you can get it from there. You can make a donation if you wish to. And can I just finish by saying I'm deeply honoured that Queen's University, for which I have a high regard, is on that trajectory, the path to sanctuary. Well done, and I assure you of my full support.
Well, Dr. Inderjit Bhogal, thank you very much.
Thank you.